Although often taken for granted, food is an integral and everyday part of the human experience. Whether we realize it or not, what, when, and how we eat says a lot about our cultural identity. The rapidly increasing pace of globalization has sometimes put those identities into a state of flux. For our project, our group decided to get a closer look at the culinary practices of the countries we visit, how those practices are unique, and what, if any, impact globalization has had on them.
The dietary staples were relatively similar in each country surveyed and are usually very traditional. These include rice, beans, fufu, yuca, and a wide variety of meats and fish.
We eat rice soup, brown kinky.
What type of food do you eat here?
Fufu. Yes, this one. Yes. This one.
Okay.
It's more common in fish everywhere. We cook it, we can grill, either grill or cook, or dry fish. And we eat it with a sweet potato, or there's another plant we call it cassava.
Acho que já tá aí. O mais básico possível, que é arroz, feijão, um bife, a comida típica do. E típica brasileira. Típica brasileira.
It's rice, beans, and some kind of meat.
Gofio y pescado. Aquí, Canarias, gofio, nada más. Gofio es cereal machacado como lo que llaman ustedes el maíz, maíz machacado. Aquí se comía eso, gofio, nada más.
Sí.
We noticed a similarity of consumer practices concerning the use of supermarkets and street markets. In the countries surveyed, it appears that the middle class typically shopped at supermarkets while the lower class supported their communities by purchasing food in the local market.
In countries like Spain, Brazil, and South Africa, people primarily shop in supermarkets. Whereas in Ghana and the working class of South Africa and Brazil, people supported their community by shopping at local street markets.
Yeah. You buy it in the market, everybody is selling it. So if you buy it and then you take it to your house and you cook it and you eat it.
So you can pick and choose at the market which one you want.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah. We got like free market. Free market where the people they cultivate their food and they make like a big field. They come and sell all the products. Fish will come directly from the sea. No, then Angola, when you say like fresh fish is a fish that you come to buy from the fisherman. When you get from the market, it's a different story.
Well, the food that is commercialized in Brazil is through supermarkets. The middle class really rely on supermarkets to buy their food nowadays. The lower class, you find them still buying at the local markets and grocery stores in the neighborhood. If you go to favelas and so on, the sense of community, all of them do really rely on the vendors and the small grocery stores that are in that community.
For the most part, those we interviewed were very aware of the origins and quality of their food. Food that was produced domestically is seen as a known quantity and is considered trustworthy.
¿A ustedes le importa de dónde viene su comida o nomás se está?
Sí, por lo general sí. Desde España, pues España. Sí.
Are you conscious of that? Do you take that into account? You prefer to buy
Não, consciente não, a gente acredita que sim. Porque ela já vem embalado, com selo de qualidade, tudo. Acredita que sim, tem cuidado na refeição.
I think Brazilians are not as concerned now. They are still not as concerned about that, the origins. Why? Because Brazil is a major producer of food items. Agriculture is a major, important industry in Brazil. So a lot of our products come from here, or fruits, or grains, or meat, and we know that the Brazilian cow is still fed with grass, and so on. So Brazilians are still trusting what comes to their table, because they know most of those are produced locally. We know it's fresh. We eat fish. We know it's fresh. We eat beef. We know comes from the Brazilian livestock and so on. So I don't think that Brazilians are as concerned with the origin of the food that they eat.
From our experience, globalization plays a surprisingly small role in the diets of those we interviewed. Imported food is either seen as a sort of novelty or is just too expensive to play a significant role in the diets of your average Ghanaian, Brazilian, or South African.
¿Eso es todo?
Ha cambiado, hay carne, hay de todo.
Sí.
Antes no había nada.
You can change it. If you don't get money, you can change it. I like it, but I don't have money.
That's what you like. I don't want it to like.
We like the local dishes because the price is low.
Imported foods have traditional South African food. For instance, like there's McDonald's here, there's fast food restaurants. Is that kind of pushing traditional foods aside, do you feel, or is traditional South African food still very popular?
Em termos de refeição mesmo, não. Refeição é mais brasileiro mesmo, aquele arroz básico, aquele feijão maravilhoso e aquele bife. Isso aí. Show de bola.
To look deeper into the globalization of food, we asked anthropologist Dr. Leo Chavez to share his expertise.
So food is a really good way of thinking about all kinds of issues of traditional identity, globalization, effective change, effective migration. It's really a good, I'd say, a good organizing concept. And in a sense, the food gets a little bit larger with agriculture, like corn is now huge instead of little tiny corn. But to a certain extent, maybe some of it isn't as good and as rich because you're growing the same food over and over again, the same plot of land, right? And you have to keep enriching it with all artificial fertilizer to keep it growing. And the meat we're eating isn't game meat, it's lean meat. We're giving antibiotics to the meat. We're raising it on corn, not grain. And in a sense, we're giving steroids so we can basically kill those animals a little faster, make it fatter sooner. And so, to a certain extent, that makes for food that's not quite as healthy anymore.
Working on this project while traveling across continents has enhanced our appreciation and understanding of food as a national identity. Keeping the effects of globalization in mind has made us realize that it appears to be subtle in some countries like Ghana, but continues to grow in other countries such as Brazil. We have observed both positive and negative effects of globalization across the world. One advantage is that it has increased access to a variety of foreign foods that many countries have adopted as part of their traditional staple. A major negative effect of globalization is the rising number of fast food restaurants that are replacing traditional foods.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
Now final question, serious question. Do you eat burritos with two hands or one?
Well, it depends on the size of the burrito.